What's up, guys? Octane Addict Autos here. We're back down in Arizona at American Legends Hot Rods, down here to see Tony Army and check in on my 1966 Chevelle build that's going to be debuting at SEMA 2024. Tony, what's up, man? Dude, are you kidding?
It's starting to be a car.
Oh my God. That color is incredible, man. Talk to me. Tell me a little bit about, some of the stuff that came up while we were going through this.
So last time there's been a lot of changes. Obviously, we determined what color we were going to paint the car, did a bunch of spray outs, and nailed that down. Figured out what colors the engine was even going to be, between the two different colors that we're running now. Obviously, even when you guys were here last, it still just had the mock-up engine. We didn't even have this motor yet. This just showed up a couple weeks ago. And then obviously we were able to take measurements from the wheels and tires while it was on the lift here, but got the wheels ordered, finished up the exhaust, got it all blown apart, bodywork painted, and now it's kind of close back to where it was in finished form from when you last saw it in reality, other than the front sheet metal's missing.
Yeah. At Hot August Nights, I've seen all these crazy cars. I want something that's going to stick out a little bit more than that gray I was looking at. That's it. I'm telling you, you killed it.
Honestly, from day one to me, I was always partial to the red rendering that Sean did, because we do a lot of silver cars, a lot of black cars, a lot of dark colors, and for just the body lines and the way this car is shaped, and especially bringing in that bronze color, the red just was right. Like, it just popped, I thought, and it worked.
Secondary colors, this like titanium.
Correct,
right?
yeah, so it's all Cerakote, and it's a mix of titanium and black, and so it's 2 to 1, and that's what we described. And I dropped everything off, labeled everything, wrote on everything to make sure the stuff was gonna be bronze, and I call it dark titanium, because it's actually quite a bit more vibrant or darker than the titanium.
So I get a phone call from Tony, and it's, hey, so there was a mishap at the paint shop, and some of the stuff's the wrong color, and I'm like freaking out for like 10 minutes. And then I start getting pictures of it, and I start matching it up to like the other renderings and the paint samples and some of the stuff we did. I'm like, that's badass. Yeah. Like, I dig it. I think this looks awesome.
I was initially concerned that it was going to look black, and it's like I didn't want it to be black and bronze.
Yeah,
and
but in person, it's not. It's really not black.
No, it'll be no different than the paint. In the shade, it's going to be really dark. It may look black in the shade, and even the car in the shade or at night, it's going to be a very deep dark red. In the sun, it's gonna be like, holy shit. Last
time I was here, we had the mock-up motor, and since then, the brand new Crate LSX has shown up.
This is a LSX 376. They rated at 486 horsepower, I believe, naturally aspirated, so it's just what the engine would make by itself. Obviously we Cerakoted everything, did all the assembly with the front drive, and then added the turbos to it. I'm shooting initially, and that's where we'll have to figure out at dyno what it'll actually take to make the power. I want to shoot for in between 700 and 800 horsepower.
That's great. That's great driving power. In my opinion, I think that's probably a little bit more than you really need. Exactly. So it's all there, but like, let's be realistic. Like, that's drivable. 1,000 horsepower in a car like this isn't going to get put down anywhere in that range. I mean, I'd say even like 600. Like, I'm stoked.
Yeah, it'll do that. They're a little smaller turbos, so they're going to spool up quickly. You won't have a lot of lag. We're only shooting for probably in between 8 to 10 psi. Obviously intercooled boost, so we'll be probably adding in between 300 horsepower. If we need to go to 12 psi to get the power level we want, we can easily do that. We're not shooting for 20, 30 psi with big giant Nelson turbos or anything crazy like that, where it's an animal. We want this car to be safe and reliable and drivable.
Let's do a little walk around, and let's check out like the wheels and look at some of the other stuff we've been working on.
Sounds good.
Tell me a little bit about like where we're at with interior. Obviously we've got a long ways to go, but like I'm seeing like all the door panels and stuff like that. Was that something that you bought, or is that something that you made?
We're actually retrofitting a door panel from a 66 to 67 Nova now, which requires quite a bit of modification, but it's also a huge head start from having to make them from scratch.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
we're having to
great. I think you know, we were talking about like different materials and stuff. I think doing like leather and some suede and stuff like that in there, I think it's gonna look really good.
Yeah, when it's a shell like this, it's hard to envision, I guess, the whole thing, but it's gonna come together really, really cool. Especially, you know, I mean, some of the stuff, like we obviously body worked and they partially painted the dash because it's all gonna get wrapped in leather. You know, the goal was to have it very smooth and finished, so there's no point to waste material on it from a paint standpoint. But once that gets wrapped in leather and then the whole dash insert and everything with the gauges starts to come, it's all gonna start to come to life, and it's gonna be, that's when it's really gonna be cool to look at.
Well, it's basically gutted because right now you're kind of working on wiring everything. You still got to get like the HP tuners set up in there for the ECU.
Yep.
There's a lot of groundwork that has to be laid before we actually get to the interior, but I like the direction you got.
Yeah, this whole setup's got a lot of stuff that's got to be hidden in the inside. So all the intercooler system for the turbos is going to run through the console area. All the brake lines, with being the master cylinder under the dash with the firewall smooth, some of that has to run under the toe board. So a lot of all that, and obviously all the wiring to the back of the car, all that has to be done before we can even think about carpet.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of planning and, you know, mechanical stuff that has to be put in place before we can take the next step. So.
Okay. We went back and forth on these wheels a little bit from like original renderings and everything like that, but like, so this is the AG F420s, and I remember looking at like kind of like a flush face, but really I like the like concave. I think it's it's kind of a loud wheel, right? We had it brushed or painted in the same Cerakote to match like all the secondary colors in like the engine bay, and then it's obviously got the carbon fiber lip or barrel. But I'm noticing we don't actually have the same wheels. You did both.
Yeah, so with the track width in the front and the ride height this car has, obviously being able to drive it low, the wheel has to be tucked in a little bit more in the front, which really limits the offset that we're capable of. So it's a much more flat face in the front while we're still able to retain a small lip, because I'd still like it to be a hot rod in essence at the end of the day, where it's not a modern wheel. But then narrowing the rear end and the back gave us a lot of room to run a concave profile with a 3-inch leg, giving us a 5-inch lip in the back, which with the leg on the spoke, moving the bolt flange in, gives us the depth of that wheel looking much more aggressive.
Tony, when we first walked in, I noticed you had a gentleman in here who was doing the scanning for the 3D printed light setup, like the whole light kit. And we've got some more ideas on some additions that we might be able to fit in as well.
Yes.
I don't know, man. Tell me a little bit about it. I know you do a lot of that stuff in-house.
We brought Patrick in. He basically laid out and 3D scanned the whole back of the car. It might look simple, I guess, when you first look at it, but it's a quite complex shape. And I do a lot of CAD design myself on the cars and stuff, and this is too much for me at the end of the day. And this is what he does. So he'll come in and we talked. He's no different than working with like a rendering guy. This is what I want. This is what I want it to look like. This is how it has to be assembled. These are the shapes. This is the design. And he'll take this, and his software is able to scan this, put it into a 3D virtual environment, and then he can build off of it, and he'll be able to capture all of these shapes exactly, where I don't have that kind of ability, so I would have to be guessing and doing a lot of measuring and sweeps and all this stuff. And that stuff's all time, and so it's actually really cost effective to bring somebody in that has the ability to scan it and produce a part in a 3D virtual environment. He'll email that to us, and we'll be able to chop it up and put it in our printer and start making everything.
I mean, not to mention, you guys did so much work to the far end of this car, like just shaping. I mean, all of it was from scratch, right? So why would the lights be any different, I guess?
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much the back foot of this car is handmade. You know, all out of steel. You know, nothing's glued together or half-assed by any means. There's a lot going on here with even the back edge of the trunk, and just try to make this whole car have that kind of modern Chevelle concept car feel.
You spent so much time putting together the grille and everything in the front of the car that it only makes sense that we have something on the back to kind of keep it balanced in that way. But it still keeps a lot of the original shape, and that's what I think I've really loved about this project. Is like, you know, from the louvers in the hood that are actually functional with the twin turbo setup because there's negative pressure and it's going to push the hot air out, blah blah blah. But like the original hood had fake vents, but they were there. But now they're there, but they're there for a reason.
Right.
Right. And it's like the shape of the back of the car is still here, but it was made a little bit more dramatic, and the lights have been modernized. The whole thing is just, it's what a 66 Chevelle was, but it's been modernized, made mean, more power, and honestly, I think this is gonna be a beast. This is gonna be a lot of fun to drive.
It's gonna be an amazing car, yeah. I mean, I always get the vibe on this car. It's like, if Chevrolet tried to do a modern version of the Chevelle.
If you pop that hood, that's exactly what Chevrolet would have done. If you said, hey, here's a blank budget, why don't you go build me a twin turbo monster?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it looks like. It's clean, everything is exactly where it looks like it should be. You know, give me the short list, like what do we have coming in? Like what does the next couple weeks look like so we can kind of design our time on getting this thing done?
So next couple weeks, we're going to be focusing a lot on wiring and plumbing, you know, working towards getting the car running. You know, that would be the goal. We get the gas tank, build the whole fuel system, build the cooling system. We have to do the whole intercooler system, and a lot of this is getting all hidden in and incorporated into the interior a bit. So before carpet goes down, we need to have a lot of stuff in place. The steering wheel just shipped from Spark Industries.
We still got to get it wrapped.
We'll get it wrapped. You know, again, it's like we'll still have to order the materials once we pick that out for the interior. But the goal will kind of be from here to get the carpet done, the headliner done. The seats can obviously be done outside of the car. We'll test fit the console, then we can do the console. The door panels will probably be one of the last things, you know, along with the carpet. And, you know, I mean, we don't have a lot of time, but we have enough time. This is my favorite part, is watching them come together. So it's all that hard work for the years we've been building the car, all get paid off in a very short amount of time.
Absolutely, man. Well, look, man, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to kind of show me where we're at in the build. Keep me posted. I know you're gonna have a bunch of questions along the way, but we'll get it done.
Sounds good.
Hey, man. And then here comes the little bubble things where everybody says, I'm confused. Where do I go? Love that.